I've got 7 p.m. right on the dot. And so we will call the public hearing portion of tonight to order. My name is Trey White, and I'm the chairman of the City of Vilonia Planning Commission. I'm going to go over a few brief things here so everybody kind of has an idea on what we're looking at from the order of things. The purpose of this public hearing tonight is to obtain citizen comments on the developments that are being presented. Said hearings and developments, because we have 2. Most everybody knows about the Bitcoin mining facility, but we also have another one for the subdivision site plan public hearing as well. First order of business will be the conditional use public hearing for the Bitcoin mining facility, or more formally known as the Interstate Holdings, as you kind of see on the screen. Then we'll have the public hearing for the site plan on the Hener subdivision development that's being presented. One of the things I wanted to do kind of real quick, just to kind of, I know just from the volume of emails we've received here at the Planning Commission, is kind of go over kind of our process, right? So anytime anybody proposes a development, it goes into our industrial district, which is out here on the east side of town. And you can find all this. I'm going to quote some sections on some documents in case people are bored and go look at the documents, right? But anytime somebody proposes a development out there, anything in the industrial district is considered a conditional use. And so if you look up at section 5.3 in our zoning, it's going to talk about all uses within the industrial district are subject to a conditional review. So, all right. So, and then when you go to section 7.3, that's what actually kind of goes over the actual conditional use review. So anybody that proposes a development in that area, we're going to have a hearing like this, okay? As part of that conditional use review, we as planning commissioners, and you'll kind of find this as part of that section 7.3 of the zoning, we're charged with making a recommendation to the city council. That's all we do. We make a recommendation, and that comes in the form of basically 4 different, 4 different ways. We can either approve as submitted, approve with conditions or modifications. We can recommend to deny the conditional use, or we could recommend to defer the conditional use. Okay, so whatever recommendation that comes forward during the planning commission portion tonight, it ultimately goes to the city council for their vote, and sometimes they vote along with our recommendation, sometimes they don't. So it's kind of up to their view at that point in time. All right. If the conditional use was approved, okay, if it was approved, it does come back to us because there has to be a site plan review at that point in time. All right. So that's kind of a short version of the conditional use. Now, the conditional use hearing is different from the site plan hearing, but that we'll also have tonight. And the reason we have a site plan hearing, if somebody proposes a subdivision, people can have comments. We have a hearing for that subdivision in case, they're a neighbor and they have concerns or whatever else. Okay? All right. So that's kind of a brief summary of why we're here this evening. All right. Now, the kind of order of events for our public hearings. First, what we'll do is we'll have the interstate guys, they'll have the presentation of the conditional use, okay? The dialogue between the applicant and the planning commission and the public will be minimal, if any. We're trying to give them the opportunity to state their case. Hey, here's what we're going to do, all right? After the applicant presentation is completed, then we'll open the floor for public comments, concerns. There's a few rules. This is the standard rules we kind of go over for each public hearing. But we would, if you haven't signed in, we'd ask you for you to sign in tonight. But when you come up to the mic, we're going to ask you to come up here to this microphone. We're going to ask you to state your name and address and confirm if you're a resident of the city of Vilonia. That's who we're here to hear, is the folks from that are residents of the city of Vilonia. Okay? We would ask that each speaker All right, keep their time to 2 to 3 minutes. We have a room full of folks, all right? And I think we've been able to do well with that in the past, and we just ask that, from that standpoint, keep your time to 2 to 3 minutes. I really don't like don't saying this one, but we have stated is, unruly behavior is prohibited. Please be courteous and considerate with your language and actions. Sometimes we can all agree to disagree sometimes, right? But we state a case and we going down the road, all right? And here in B-Town, we've always had good luck with that as well, all right? After the public comment time is completed, we will then offer the applicant the opportunity for any closing comments. So after the public comments are done, the applicant is afforded an opportunity to come back and maybe address any of those comments, all right? And then after those closing comments by the applicant, we will adjourn the public hearing, and then we will, after both public hearings are done, we may have a short break, but we'll transition pretty quick to our normally scheduled Planning Commission meeting. We will go forward with the Bitcoin mining hearing first, conditional use hearing first, and then we will go into the Hener edition. Is anybody here for the Hener edition? Okay. All right, I didn't get around to see that. All right. With that, let's open it up to the Interstate guys. I know there's a number of y'all, and if you don't mind, introduce yourself and just kind of go forward.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, and honestly, this is your public presentation. You're not really talking to us on this one, okay? So you can grab that mic if you want to involve whatever else you want to do.
Yeah.
Or you can sit there and look at us, whatever's in most comfortable.
You're good. All right. So, hello, my name is Ben Smith. I'm with Blockchain Construction, but I'm also the president of the Arkansas Blockchain Council. A little brief history on myself. I'm an Arkansas native, born in Arkansas from Marion. I live in Jonesboro now. I started crypto mining in Arkansas in 2019. Have no formal education on technology or anything. I was a firefighter paramedic for the city of West Memphis and Memphis. So all self-taught from YouTube, literally, sitting around the fire station. So, Interstate Blockchain, they're members of the Arkansas Blockchain Council. So we've worked for the last 2 years now, trying to work with communities, everyone that all the members of our association has gone into. That includes Russellville, Moorland, which is just north of Russellville, a site that I own in Walnut Ridge, and then Pleasant Plains and Cabot, which Mr. Landers owns, and then now they're presenting the one for here. So a lot of people ask, what is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin mining? So Bitcoin mining is Bitcoin is a decentralized network of pretty much a way to move money, kind of like MasterCard or Visa. It takes computers to process that information, just like a server processes information up in Washington where Amazon Web Services are. So for most of us that aren't technical, about 90% of the internet is routed through Amazon Web Services. That's where Amazon gets all their money. It's not from delivering packages to our door, although that is a nice thing. So why do we have Bitcoin for that movement of information? Because that's what Bitcoin is movement of information. Right now it's used as transacting money, essentially. Commodities. I always say us Arkansans know about commodities because a bunch of farmers, right? Like we can listen to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange on the radio, and they talk, winter wheat prices say February is this, right? Well, Bitcoin is traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange the exact same way, just like cattle, everything else. Our government looks at it as a commodity. But back to the Amazon thing. what's the decentralized version, right? God forbid Seattle gets hit with a nuke. Well, if that happens, 90% of all of our internet traffic is routed through there. So what these servers do in the decentralized version of it is, if something happens to his site in Cabot or my site in Walnut Ridge, then it doesn't disrupt the network, right? It continues on because there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of these things running all over the world, right? So if you stop one area from doing it, it doesn't stop the network, right? That is the vision of whoever founded Bitcoin. And right now, it is the way to move money, all right? But we can embed contracts into the Bitcoin itself, and it just moves that information, right? So every 10 minutes, a new block is found. Well, that block consists of all that information that I just talked about. And in the reward or block subsidy is a percentage of the Bitcoin that is mined. And that's how new Bitcoin is brought into the network. There will only be 21 million Bitcoin ever mined. Well, that's how miners are rewarded. We do have an energy bill that we have to pay, so we usually sell, like I personally sell my Bitcoin to pay my energy bill once a month. So that's kind of like an overture of what Bitcoin mining is and what the Bitcoin network can be used for. It's not just moving money from one place to another. It's a way to harden our infrastructure of our information and kind of keep people from messing with it. So how does Bitcoin mining work? Bitcoin mining runs a specific algorithm. They're called ASICs. These things, these computers that everybody sees, is called an ASIC, or Application-Specific Integrated Circuit. That is what we went to the moon on, those type of computers. So, not very sophisticated, honestly. So, it is made up of hundreds of chips inside of it. These chips are made, these particular ones are made by Taiwan Semiconductor, which are the same chips that are in your phone. This is an American-made, designed and made miner. I know there's always the issues with the Chinese or you know, those type of things. But it can only do one thing. It cannot look into somebody's information. It can't, spy on somebody. It can't get radio frequencies, nothing like that. All it can do is mine Bitcoin on the SHA-256 algorithm. Does anybody in there ever use DocuSign? Anybody? So, okay. That is the SHA-256 algorithm. That is ran on these ASIC chips. So every time you use DocuSign to sign your mortgage payment or some car note, whatever, you unknowingly are routing your information through an algorithm that moves it across the network, which they can't be forced upon that, but it's the exact same technology. So it's not like some wild technology out there. But the reason why DocuSign uses it is because of the encryption piece. Because it's impossible to do an attack on your information. And the reason why is you have to convince 51% of the network to vote against itself, essentially, to release that information. So you have to get 51% of all the miners in the world to allow there to be some type of manipulation of the network. To put that into perspective, if Russia took every single piece of electricity that they had ever made, or that they're making right now, and devoted it, every last one of them, to the Bitcoin network, that would account for about 14% of the mining. So it is beyond even a nation state to take over. The reason I use Russia's the largest producer of energy in the world. They make more energy than anybody. So this is like I said, just a way like MasterCard or Visa to transact that money. So how accessible and affordable is Bitcoin mining? Well, there are two business models essentially in Bitcoin mining. There's a self-mining option, which means you own the land, the infrastructure, the miners, and you own the power contract with the utility, because that's our big overhead, right? And you take all the mining rewards that you get in that time frame, and you make your money off of it. Well, what Interstate does is a second type of mining. Anybody can participate. This is called a hosted mining. So this machine right here costs you about $3,000. All right. What is our greatest wealth building tool in America? And that is real estate. That's what we've always known, right? So the analogy like I like to use is, okay, I want to be a landlord. I want to have my own property. Today's rates, say that house is $200,000 at 7%. I have to get a tenant in there. I have to worry about that washing machine going out and all that stuff, right? And I'm going to return about $300 after I pay my taxes, etc. each month as a reward. Or I can buy this unit for, like I said, about $3,000. Have it hosted at Mr. Lander's facility or other hosting facilities. And you're going to receive a power bill, just like you do at your house. And that power bill on this particular machine is going to run you somewhere in the range of about $125. However, this machine is going to make you about $400. So your cost of capital for our greatest wealth building tool in America is significantly higher versus this. So the cost of entry for you to become your own business person and have that freedom is much lower, and anybody can do it. I have a partner that runs the Russellville mine and the one in Moreland, and I think he has like several hundred clients in there. So anybody can literally do it. Common misconceptions about Bitcoin. 1, foreign ownership and operating. Mr. Landers, everybody knows his family very well. They've been in Arkansas for a long time. 100% owned by him and operated by myself. I have a company that we build and operate these mines with him for, and we hire local. You don't need college education. Like I told you, I learned from YouTube, right? You don't need high school education. Starting pay is about $55,000 a year. Pretty good for Arkansas. That's benefits and et cetera in that. Now, do we employ a whole lot of people, right? That is always the question. Well, no. So for a facility this size, be about 4 to 5 people to initially start. So, but that's 4 or 5 families that a guy or girl with a high school education can get self-taught and make well above the minimum wage, right? It's pretty good. And unfortunately, as much as even myself, I don't like it, but as the world moves to more digital society, that is going to be something that we have to encounter in the future is work versus our output of what our information that we need. So the power question, does it steal from local businesses and residents? So how our contract works, we have to put in these studies called RFIs with Entergy. Entergy is the big player in the state. They're the one that makes all the energy. So how it works is we have to go around and we find a substation. And we say, okay, how much power is in that substation? And we put in the study, and Entergy, they don't build things overnight, right? Like, utility companies are planning 20 years down the line. They just don't show up and say, okay, here it is. Well, they say, okay, they look at that substation and say, okay, this substation has, at any given time, maybe the substation has 10 megawatts of power at it, right? So they'll say, okay, you can have 8 megawatts of power. They don't ever give us the full amount because there always has to be a reserve. But also, what happens is, let's say Newark is the one that provides power here. I don't think that's true, but I think it's Russellville, because Russellville provides about 60% of the power in the state. But let's just say it does. Let's say that turbine over there is a 100 megawatt turbine. There is no throttle on those turbines. You either get 100% or you get 0%. So let's say that turbine services a community or area that holds 90 megawatts of power on any given day. So there's that 10 megawatt difference, right? So what happens is they just can't move everybody's heard of voltage. Well, voltage is how far of a distance electricity can be moved. So they say, okay, Interstate, y'all can have 8 megawatts. So we build a facility to 8 megawatts, and let's say it's really cold, like back a couple months ago, or it gets really hot, which we'll have in the summer. Usually about 2 or 3 days before, Entergy will call us and email us, and they'll say, hey, on Thursday, it's going to be 110 degrees. Everybody's going to be turning on their air conditioners between 2 and 6, right? Because that's like the hottest part of the day. You have to shut down your facility in order to feed back that power to the grid, because that power on any given day, which is called peak grid hours, we're not using that power. But since we know that more than likely the power will be needed in the community because of the temperature, or heat or cold, they say you got to turn it off between these hours. So we shut down, and we have 2 penalties if we don't shut down. First penalty is our rate gets raised high, and we get like triple the amount of that bill for the month. Or, so that's if you do it first. Like you mess up, that's called curtailment. So if we don't curtail, that's the first penalty. Strike 1. Do it again the next time, and you don't get the rate anymore, and you don't get service the economics of it, right? So they raise our rate up to the next tariff level, which is all regulated by the Public Service Commission. And what that does to us, since energy is our number one input and overhead, it really affects our economics, right? And if it raised up to the area that it would be, we would go out of business. So it's not worth it to us to push through and mine for those 4 hours, right, that we shut down. So, he's not investing millions of dollars. I'm not investing millions of dollars into something just to throw it out the window for a couple $100 and to mess it up. But also, he grew up in these communities, I grew up in these communities, we go to church, kids go to school, we're not going to mess up our community either. The American guys, I'd like to point out, or the blockchain council guys. So does it have a negative impact to the environment? So we all know noise pollution. 100%, not going to argue with that. There's bad people that have done it. The Bono guys, terrible. That is, I would hate to be that lady. But there are ways to mitigate that. There are two ways of constructing mines normally. Containers, which we own containers in some areas, or buildings, which factory style in some areas. Legislation passed, which we were a part of helping structure that, because we're a new industry in the state. and of way we do things. So, like again, I told you I've been mining since 2019. There's about 19 mines here in the state. Most of us only know of the Bono mine, right? Because they're the ones that caused all the problem. So that is the environmental impact on noise. Now, back to the energy portion of the environmental impact, right? That energy is being made every day no matter what. Back to that turbine that has 100 megawatts on it. The input, or whatever the fuel is getting burned no matter what. So we consume it because they purchase those fuels on future markets. So they already know for the next year how much fuel they expect to use, and they purchase it in January. Well, maybe that fuel, they expected they were going to use, however much, and they only use 80% of it because that's how much energy got bought up, right? But who do you think that gets passed along to the next year? Us, the citizens, and not just Bitcoin miners, but Walmart, people that live on, at your house. It all gets passed to us. If you look in your bill, it says fuel adjustment charge. That's what that is. So Bitcoin miners, as we eat up that electricity, we lower those, we get into those more, make those margins better for the utilities, and it kind of gives them a sense of how much power and how much fuel they're going to need to buy for the next year. So, impacts of Bitcoin mining. Of course, these would be economic benefits. Generate sales tax. We're a business, just like any other business, and we generate that sales tax. Number one is the energy. Again, it's our highest input, it's our highest portion. Well, here at 2.75% that Vilonia has on our energy sales alone on this project would be about $101,000 in energy alone for tax revenue. This doesn't account for property tax value, sales tax value. Because like I said, these things are about $3,000. Sales tax value of that, and use tax. A project like this, if you own the miners, the building, everything, would probably be in the range of about $14 million invested money into the community. So, of course, you can do the sales tax math on that. What Mr. Landers does is looking for local schools to work on the STEM program. As much as some of us don't like, there are people that think maybe this could be the future of something, including our president. The Trump administration just passed a executive order creating a crypto council that would make a national reserve, just like we have a strategic petroleum reserve. He's working on a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The United States is the third largest holder of Bitcoin in the world, behind Satoshi Nakamoto, which his Bitcoin has never moved, and then Michael Saylor, which owns a publicly traded company called MicroStrategies. They're a software company, old school software company at that. So it's important that we teach our kids of the future, like about technology. And what Mr. Landers is doing is donating to the local schools miners that would run at the facility that would offer, obviously, revenue for the school and Bitcoin value, but also teaching the kids how to work on hardware, how to solder chips, how to engineer airflow structures, stuff like that, which are all stuff that can be used outside Bitcoin mining, right? Like chip soldering is huge. That would be a grand education there. Creates local jobs. We hire from the community. Everybody that, so we employ about 22 guys in the state right now. Throughout 22 people, I'm sorry. Throughout the state right now. And like I said, this site would be about 4 more people added to it. So, what can you do with Bitcoin? Spend it like cash. Just like I said, if you accept Bitcoin for a payment, then I can send it to you, and that's our medium of exchange. Money is nothing more than what me and you agree on. Or you can convert it to US dollars. Send it to Cash App, and you can convert it over to your bank account, and it'll be there in about 30 minutes. Or you can spend it on your phone from just like US dollars. So why choose Interstate Holdings? Well, first of all, this is not on slide, but Mr. Landers, I've known him for about a year and a half now, 2 years. He's been a great guy, first of all. His family, like I said, has been really good to this whole state. Honest, respectful, trustworthy guy. If he tells you he's going to do something, he means it. And I've learned that from my last 2 years of being with him. Year and a half, so. But education, back to, there's no other company, Bitcoin mining company in the state that's doing what he's doing when it comes to the STEM programs. That's huge. Side note, from the Blockchain Council standpoint, we want to do that across everywhere. All the misinformation about connections to CCP or any of that nonsense is just wrong. We know who this man is. We know where his money comes from. There is no question. The economic impact to the community is also positive. Generate a lot of money. How can you get involved and learn more? You can reach out to interstateholdings.com. They have a YouTube channel. You can have my cell phone number. You can reach out to me on the Blockchain Council. Like, whatever it is, I try to teach you and try to be respectful. Not try to be, I will be respectful. But try to be as informative as possible. And we're willing to teach anybody anything about Bitcoin, crypto, anything like that technology-wise. We would love to talk to you about. So that's it. Thank you. Do I do a question? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're done with your presentation, good. Okay. Yeah. Well, then we'll transition to the public comment portion of this, and here's what I kind of visited with the Planning Commission here early on. Given the volume of emails that we have received, we're going to make the assumption that everybody in here is opposed. Okay? Now, hold on. So we want to hear, we would ask if you are for it, we would ask that you speak. All right? Do we need to hear as a Planning Commission that you're against it? We need to hear, but I don't know that we need to. We know, for the most part, that everybody's against it, okay? If you're for it, we would ask that you come forward, because if not, we haven't heard anybody that is, okay? And then the next thing, we would like to hear from Vilonia residents. I know if you're out in the county, I know you're affected by what goes on here in town. I get it. But we'd like to hear from the Vilonia residents, okay? Now, we're not saying don't speak. That is not, don't let me communicate that at all, okay? But we do want to hear if there is a different opinion from what we've already received via email, okay? With that, we have an open mic. Anybody for it?
For it.
All right, let's start in with those. Who wants to speak? Go ahead.
Well, I want to speak because we've been through this.
Wait. First off, I'd like to get your name and address, please.
My name is Sharon Clark. I live at 16 Jansky Lane.
Thank you, Sharon.
I also own another home on Jansky Lane,
Okay.
which is one street over from where the site is being proposed. I'd like. Well, I tried to turn it over.
Yeah, just press the button on the side.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I live on Jansky. I have two homes. We're probably
I don't know, maybe 600 feet, half a mile, because I live up closer to right across from the substation to begin with, so we went through all that years ago. And I know you were saying something about, you didn't invest a lot of money, not to make any money. And I'd like to say, that I did invest the last 25 years working, buying 2 homes so that my parents could be out here and, spend 30 years as a social worker to retire out here in a beautiful, quiet area that we have since made gardens and everything else, and it's peaceful and it's quiet. Now, I know we skipped a little bit over the 55 decibels of the sound. And it says something like normal conversation. Is that a conversation between 2 people? Is that a conversation when everybody starts talking in this room?
Yes.
What is that?
Well, and we'd like to bring that up as a point. We don't want to get into back and forth right now.
No, I just,
So,
okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you
Okay.
bring the
I
point up
never
and
asked
then, no, you're fine. And then we'll let them come back up and address that, your concerns or comments if they choose to. But yeah, so you have a concern on the decibel level.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, I'm concerned about that, and of course all the things that we've read and that we've gone through with groundwater and different things. So, I mean, I can have a whole list of that. So anyway, I just wanted to say, I respect everybody to start businesses, that's wonderful. But man, we're just out here just trying to live in a quiet, peaceful town. And, and I think one of your articles said, you really didn't mind where it was located, but you do have to have that substation. But this is City of Vilonia, and we're growing, and we've said it and we stood up against it once, and there's so many articles about how the commission and the city hall stood behind its people, and I'd like to see them stand behind us again, and let's just kind of put it I can turn this over, I guess, to someone else.
Yeah, just put the mic back in the holder if you don't mind.
Hello, so I'm Faith Matos.
Hey, Ms. Mentos, how are you?
I am wonderful. I live at 24 Whispering Wind Circle, which is a little farther off than Jenski, but still on that kind of side of town. And I've been coming to the Planning Commission since Michael was on the Planning Commission. And I just wanted to remind a few things that have came up in the past that Vilonia has went through. It reminds some people that maybe they don't remember or whatever. But we had the go-karts that came in. It was under conditional use. We added so many conditions to them, they decided to move out of town. We had the mobile home just a few months ago. That was conditional use, and y'all denied that totally. And so I just want to remind y'all of the precedent y'all have set already for Vilonia. I'm also really big on, I take care of special need people all day long. That's my heart. That's what I do. I have a license to take care of them. And there are a lot of them that can't be here tonight for different reasons. PTSD, or they couldn't get in and out, the crowd. And just remind y'all that it might be what they call a conversation. Which I went out to cabin, it's a lot better than, if it's a conversation, it's the Matos family conversation, which consists of 67 people at one time. It's a very loud conversation. That consistent sound for special need adults, that's what I specialize in, is special need adults. So that consistent sound around the clock is a lot. You got somebody with PTSD that has gotten that condition due to keeping us safe from God knows what, that's a lot. And so I'm a big advocate for those that can't speak up for themselves. Mr. Landers did say that he would donate to our schools. Maybe, is what his article said. Maybe. I wanted to remind you of that. I have a child graduating Vilonia today. I'm proud of Vilonia schools. I wouldn't have moved here if I wasn't happy with them. But a maybe doesn't stand very much with me. And then I wanted to bring up the fact that Conway's getting a data center, proposed data center, possibly. I know it's not crypto mine. It is a data center, though. Some computer. I'm not IT. I have IT guys that work for that. They take care of that because I fix IT by dropping a cup of coffee in it. But they're proposing to cool it with water, or gray water is what they're proposing. I listened to that whole meeting myself. And Vilonia is better than Conway. We deserve better. We deserve the quietest thing that we can come up with. if it's gonna come, then we deserve the very, very, very best of whatever we can get. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Amanda Ventura. I live at 24 Cardinal Way. Just a little bit about myself. I am a disabled veteran and I moved here in 2006. I did spend some time overseas and I came back here because I love Vilonia. I have loved it. My children started school here and they graduated here. I didn't really know that much about Bitcoin mining, so I did a little bit of research starting last month. Obviously, that's not as much time as these people have invested in it. But I didn't understand it, so I went ahead and went online and started researching as much as I could. One of the things that caught my attention was there's a town in Texas. It's called Granbury, Texas. And these people, they oppose that mine being there. Their city did not listen to them. That mine is there. And now, these people, they're suffering all kinds of health conditions. We're talking about these people are having migraines. And for those of you who've never had a migraine, I'm a chronic migraine sufferer. My migraines last for 2 weeks at a time, and I usually end up in the ER. Okay? It's not fun. It's not something that Tylenol is going to knock out. Okay? Migraines are serious. Okay? A lot of these people have also reported hearing loss, vertigo, nausea, vomiting, hypertension, heart palpitations, chest pain, tinnitus, panic attacks, and even one person actually suffered heart failure. There was no history of these problems before that crypto mine came to town. I went ahead and reached out to one of the residents there. She was mentioned in the article that I read. And so I wrote to her on Facebook Messenger. I verified who she was. And I asked her if they were still experiencing those issues because this happened a while back. And she said, yes, ma'am, absolutely. To the point now that they are actually going to court. They are going to court to stop this company. Okay? In addition to that, there are other places in North Dakota and there's places in Arkansas that are also experiencing several problems, medical problems from crypto mines, or at least their vicinity near them. And again, we have no long-term studies on these because it's so new. There's no long-term studies to say that the emissions that are caused by this stuff isn't going to harm us. We need to be worried, yes, about the decibels, but we need to worry about what level the decibels cause problems. So I went online and found out that decibels over 75 consistently, as these would be 24/7, can actually cause hearing loss in children. So are we worried about our children? And I believe that we should be. And I don't believe that we should be taking chances with people's health at all. So what I'm asking for, I understand that the Planning Commission is not an approval or a disapproval aside from conditional use. I understand that and I'm not putting it on you. I understand that you're not elected. I understand that. I'm not asking you to do anything outside of your responsibilities. Interstate Holdings has done a really good job of making it sound really, really good. But for those of us who live more in everyday Arkansas, in Vilonia, most of us can't afford a $3,000 machine, much less to have 10 of them. As they stated, Mr. Lander, in their slideshow, it said that Mr. Lander started with only 10 of them. Most of us don't have $30,000 sitting in the bank that we can just dump on a computer on the hope that that computer can solve a mathematical equation to claim the end of the Bitcoin chain. Most of us can't do that. We don't understand how it works. Also speaking to the woman in Granbury, I asked her how many jobs had been created. There were 5. They have a population of 12,000 people. That's not even 1% of their population. So as far as the claim for jobs, it's not enough to make a difference. And it's not enough to put the health of our citizens at risk. So what I'm asking, I understand again that you're not elected. But I am asking you to stand up for the people of this community. And deny the conditional use permit. And if it goes forward to the city council, this is what I'm asking to the members of our city council that are present and to our mayor. I am asking you to do what we elected you to do and represent us and what we want.
My name is Larry Wade, 41 Jansky Lane.
Yes, sir.
I sent this letter online, and I'd like to read it publicly if I may. I'm against the Bitcoin mining operation, just like I was the first time it came up. One of the reasons is because I live on Jansky Lane, and I don't want the noise of the facility behind me. We already have the go-kart track. Everyone is talking about the noise, but no one is explaining the noise pollution factor. I've been a jet fighter mechanic for my many years in the Air Force, and have worked on numerous aircraft at different bases around the globe, as well as the C-130s here at Vilonia. From all these planes, I've been around the engines have a decibel level from anywhere from 98 to 167 dBAs, depending on the engine size and the speed at which they're running. I've heard the Bitcoin mining facility that was posted online, and it sounds like a jet engine running at idle speed. In the research I've done, the Bitcoin operation can range anywhere from 70 to 103 decibels, and sometimes spike to 120 to 130 decibels. The Jansky Lane community has all age levels living here. Babies, young children, teens, adults, and senior citizens. The noise from the facility would be detrimental to our community. The research I found says a loud blast of 120 decibels can cause hearing loss for a time, as well as a continuous non-stop level of 85 decibels can cause permanent hearing damage to all, especially children whose auditory systems are not fully developed yet. Can you imagine the infant child crying all the time because their ears hurt and they can't make it stop? It's constantly running 24/7, 365. Or the child trying to do their homework but can't concentrate because of the constant noise they can't stop. I know how they would feel. Because of my service to our great country, I live with a constant ringing or humming sound in my ears because of the job I perform. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Granted, we're around loud noises every day. A lawnmower runs at 85 to 90 decibels, or a music concert, 120 decibels. That's why most people wear earplugs to concerts. But these noises we can stop or turn off. Bitcoin operation never stops. Now let's talk about the energy factor. There are 4 basic units of power: kilowatt, megawatt, gigawatt, and terawatt. The average home uses 30 kilowatts of power a day, or 10 to 12,000 kilowatts per year. The Bitcoin facility uses 67 to 240 terawatts for mining, or 155,000 kilowatts to mine 1 Bitcoin, which is an enormous amount of power. Which poses the question, what type of power strain is this putting on our community, as well as the rest of Vilonia? Just ask the families in Rooster, Arkansas, that deal with this on a daily basis if they're happy with it. Not only is there a noise factor, but when the facility comes and our property values go down and our electric bills go up, why should the citizens of any town be responsible for paying the electric bill of any company? That's just wrong in so many ways. I hope and pray that you truly do have the Vilonia citizens' well-being in mind when you make your decision on this matter, and would agree with me that we do not need this facility in our community. Our town has always been a loving, quiet place that people enjoy visiting. Let's not destroy that with a loud Bitcoin mining operation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Got 2. That's all. Go on.
Okay, my name is Logan Dearman, and I live at 5 Farmhouse Circle. My husband and I just got married in January. I brought notes thinking I was going to say stuff, but I'm just going to wing it. I just want to ask, did we make a mistake moving here? I mean, we're not asking these people to come here. I grew up here. I graduated from Vilonia, and we are Arkansas, the natural state, not Arkansas, the Bitcoin state. And I can't speak for Russellville or all those other towns that they talk about. That was their decision to bring those people there. But we're Vilonia, and we've already experienced 2 tornadoes. We don't need to go through this. And from a young person's point of view, we might be like, oh, it's the next generation, they're all for this. No, we're not. We like doing things the traditional way. We like the quiet life in Vilonia. Please don't take that away.
Thank you, Logan.
Hi, I'm Eliza Brown, 1117 Main Street, which is a restaurant site that we hope to open up here. We are concerned about the power availability and also 357 Highway 319. So, amazingly so, you talked to someone from Granbury. That is amazing, because that was what I was going to talk about. The site that in Vilonia that Mr. Landers is proposing is putting all those mining machines in a metal building. Even if they soundproof it, they still have to vent it. That is an enormous amount of sound that is going to be produced. In Granbury, they even built a sound barrier to decrease the sound, but it didn't help. Still, 95 decibels were being reported. That's crazy. I mean, just the amount of health and risk and everything from that it's just not worth it. It's just not. And the fact that building inside of the utility zoned area, is there a loophole that we don't know about? What are the zoning requirements? What if the site goes in and the decibels are high? What if they go over 70 decibels and we do a cease and desist order on Mr. Lander's site? Do we have an agreement in place for who's going to cover those infrastructure costs to set up that Bitcoin mine? Is that in place? Is there any kind of agreements with Entergy that's been made that we don't know about? You have to think about all those things. And the gifts to our town, yeah, they may seem generous, but they're just distractions. They are to buy our silence.
Yes.
It's something that we don't need. I would love to volunteer and do things for our town, and I'm only a couple of more years of work before I can retire and do that. I would love to do that. A lot of people here would love to do that. I would love to open an animal shelter here. That's been one of my dreams. Why do these companies keep coming to Vilonia? I can tell you why, because we're vulnerable. We have excess energy here. We have cheap land. We have land near our substation. And we want to do well by our families. That's why they're coming here. They're taking advantage of us. We're vulnerable and they know it. Deny, deny, deny.
I'm Gina Moore with, I live at 35 Bush Lane. Can y'all hear me if I talk like this?
I can. You bet.
I had a lot of notes, and I'll try not to read them all, but those that I think probably pertain more to the Planning Commission, I'll save the rest for if this goes to the City Council. My husband and I moved here 24 years ago. We've raised 3 wonderful girls in a fabulous school district. We moved here because the town is so wonderful, quiet, safe, great place to raise kids. Let's see, let me stay on task. I had very little knowledge of Bitcoins, as probably, the majority of citizens in here. So I went online looking for more information after hearing all of the hubbub online. One thing I would like to request is that the company provide data resources for all of the information provided. I didn't see any links or resources that I could go and see, is this true or is this just something that was created to, as a sales pitch? Sorry, I'm nervous. I went online, researched, as much as I could with what little knowledge I had. Came up with very reputable sources related to things like the noise issues, and that's been addressed, I recognize. But one thing I saw was in an article in the journal Nature, which is a reputable journal, they report that constant and prolonged noise exposure, even within the 50 to 80 decibel range, leads to elevated stress levels, sleep disturbances, cognitive impairment in children, and anxiety, to name just a few. Adults will also experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and psychological distress just from the constant noise out there. Another thing that I learned was about the energy use, that there are tremendous amounts of energy used in these Bitcoin mining facilities. I don't understand how any of it works, so I'm just sharing with you what I read. But in Britannica online, they talk about how it says most cryptocurrency facilities use the same amount of energy as a mid-sized country. And so I just think, well, if we're giving them the extra energy, there's no way we have that much energy that we can just donate the extra to. So also it talks about water being used to cool the systems and that sort of thing. BBC is a source that I found this, and I emailed all of these to y'all, so it's there if you've not seen it yet. But BBC says that every Bitcoin transaction uses, on average, enough water to fill a backyard swimming pool. So where all the water's coming from, that would be another question of mine. If they're getting all of this water, does my family have enough water? Do the kids at school have enough water? That sort of thing. I worry about the ecosystem. We have a lot of hunters here, a lot of people who just moved here because of the beautiful the plants, the animals, the deer, the squirrels, all of those things that make our community wonderful to live in. When we have such a high level of noise, are those animals just going to run? I would say probably yes. Let's see, what else was I? Also the internet, I don't know, is this going to be the strain on our internet facilities for not only home use, but children? That's lower on my list, although I do work online. It's just something to consider. Do we have the resources and capability to provide that sort of support? So my biggest concern is I don't think we, as a general collective group, have enough knowledge of the whole situation to really know what questions to ask. We can say, oh yeah, that sounds good, and whatever we're told, because it sounds good. But I'm just not sure we even know what questions to ask where we can create guidelines and that sort of thing to create a safe situation. So anyway, thank you for listening.
My name is Cynthia Tarpley, and I live at 24 Jansky Lane.
Hey, Cynthia.
I've lived in Vilonia for 24 years and worked in Vilonia for 20 years. I listened to their presentation. Back in 2022, I went to the Bono site, drove over there, heard it and saw it. A few weeks ago, I've been 3 different times to Cabot and seen the size of the facility over there and the noise. During this whole presentation, there was no description of what the building was going to be like, what the fans or whatever the cooling was going to be, what the size is going to be, how many of these the maximum is going to be. One in my office doesn't create that much heat or require that much of a fan. But you get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, what is their limit going to be? Or are they going to build one building and then another one and then another one in the future? That's something that wasn't even addressed. I felt that it was very vague, and I'd like to know the answers of what the building's gonna be like, what it's gonna be made of, what their vent system, whatever it's gonna be like. Because until then, I don't feel like they answered any questions. So until then, I really think that we don't know anything.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
My name is James Quinn. I live at 39 Oakwood, which is roughly 300 yards from where this is proposed. And I wanted to start, I'm an engineer, and I have worked in the utility industry, and I wanted to correct something. It may be an inadvertent simplification, but there is no excess power. That just does not exist. There is no excess power. If you look on your energy bill every month, there is a line on that bill for purchased power. Now, believe you me, a business that has an excess of something doesn't purchase more of it. What we do have at that substation is an excess of transmission capacity.
Correct.
So we have unused transmission capacity, but there is no excess power. If we increase the power load, Entergy has to get that power from somewhere. And yes, they have base-loaded plants that run in a constant, but they are at a constant power level, but they also have peaking plants that they vary the load with. Anyway, but also Entergy has two of their biggest base-loaded plants that are slated for retirement in the next couple of years. So we don't have excess power, but we do have unused transmission capacity, which is a good thing, which means we could get industries, subdivisions, businesses that need power to come into Vilonia because we have that. At the last time, the gentleman from Entergy even admitted that this kind of installation would use all that excess transmission capacity. And anybody that wanted to come in would have to pay to build out more capacity. Well, that's not only is that expensive, but the lead time for sub-transmission class breakers and sub-transmission class transformers is roughly 2 to 5 years now. If you read FERC reports, that's a national crisis, a national emergency is what they call it. So it would cramp Vilonia's ability to bring any new development in if this goes through. In addition, we'd be subsidizing this monster. They'll be buying power at much less rate, at a much lower rate than you or I buy power. And in my mind, that's us subsidizing another business. And I don't care what the business is. I don't like to subsidize something. I would rather, if they're going to come in, they pay the same rate that I pay. Another thing I don't like about the data mining or Bitcoin business is planned obsolescence. If you deal with these businesses, most of these monsters don't have a long life. The business plan is get in, make a killing, and get out. I know of one installation in Pennsylvania, and it's a 100 megawatt installation. It's huge. The building itself takes up acres. It was commissioned in 2023. They had to replace the miners. Since then, and now this year, it's due to be decommissioned because it's no longer profitable. So, and if we have another Bitcoin halving, which means the rate of return for Bitcoin is cut in half, the last was April. The next one is projected to be 2028. But if that makes this installation unprofitable, they're just going to pull up stakes and we're going to be left with this thing rotting and decaying and still having a contract with Entergy for this power. And one final point, I'm not an acoustical expert. Like I said, I am an engineer. I have had to deal with vibration and acoustics my entire career. So at least I know what the words mean. I'm also in the ventilation business, the air movement business, and I've had to deal with a lot of noise-related issues in the air movement field. Don't believe everything you've heard about the noise from this monster. Yeah, it's going to be built in an enclosure. Is the sheet metal enclosure a good acoustical enclosure? Well, have you ever seen a Mack truck? A Mack truck is a noise source enclosed in sheet metal, and it is not a quiet endeavor. It also exhausts its noise through the roof. It's still not quiet. I'm glad we have the noise ordinance. I congratulate the City Council for the noise ordinance, but it's not a perfect protection. There's something called an acoustical shadow, which means if you're exhausting noise up, you can meet this ordinance at this point at the property boundary, but you further out, you may not meet the noise ordinance, particularly at nighttime when you have a thermal inversion. The noise can be reflected off this cooler air that's caught above the city. And if you want an example of that, I don't know how far away you live from the football stadium, but how many times at night have you heard football games miles away? Yeah. But if it's a thermal inversion, you're going to hear it miles and miles away. Anyway, once again, I ask y'all to just take those things into consideration and deny this permit.
All right. Appreciate it. All right. Yes, sir.
I'm Harold Moody. I live at 24 Cecil Lane. I'm 3 miles out of town. I can hear the football game when it's on, and I don't even have to be there. Sit on my back deck and I can hear it. I've lived here 34 years. I moved up here for the quietness. I am a Vietnam veteran. I do have hearing aids. They don't work too good. But I've been to that one up there, other side of Worcester. That is one noisy sucker. My kids went to Vilonia. My grandkids went to Vilonia. My brother-in-law's kids went to Vilonia. I want to see Vilonia stay as is, beautiful and quiet.
All right. Thank you, sir.
My name is James Harris.
Hey, James.
Me and my family moved up here, around 25 years ago to get closer to the VAs and stuff like that. I'm a retired veteran. Had 27 years in the military. And just like any other veteran, several veterans suffer from PTSD. And it's several nights that I get up from having bad dreams, and I just like to sit outside where it's quiet. And then it keeps me calmed down, and I can go back to sleep. This right here is not something that the veterans need in this area. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Yes.
My name's Deborah Newser. I live at number 2 Whippoorwill Drive. My question is, they have agreements with Entergy. Entergy can do rolling brownouts in the summertime. They know ahead of time that this is coming. Will this interfere with us being able to get our usual power source? Because they will be pulling more energy. I mean, and I just don't know how that's going to affect our electric bills if we're having to pay, since we won't know until the next year how that would hit our electric bills.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I got you. I see what's going on.
It's me again. 2 years ago,
Yes, ma'am.
I've lived here 52 years. This Yankee accent doesn't go away. I've been postmaster here in El Paso. I am a veteran. I have worked crypto, and that's what I did when I was in the Army. And I live on the most wonderful road, Jansky Lane. I've got 20 acres down there, horses, and all the deer in the neighborhood, because I won't let anyone kill anything. And that's the way it goes. Mr. Landers has a lot more than we have, but we have the home and the town of just perfection. There is no place better, and though I'm a northerner originally, after 54 years, I am an Arkansan. I am from Vilonia. You're making a terrible mistake if you don't listen to your people, and please help us. We don't need crypto mining, and they can find it everywhere. I've gone and sat and listened to them. I'm 82 years older than my husband. We're already half nuts. Put them in and we will be. Please, 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 listen. No.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Rita Smith. I live at 29 Hop Drive. My husband and I have been in Vilonia for 26 years. We purposely moved here because of the community. We purposely chose to live here as newlyweds because we wanted to raise our family here. We did that. Our children went to school here. But one of our children is severely autistic. One of the things we do, he is 24 years old and we bring him home. He also suffers severely from Tourette's. We stay here because we love the people. They have been with us as a family. It says it takes a village to raise a family. Well, it certainly does if you have a severely disabled child. We have a wonderful church community and friends here. One of the things we love the best is our son is severely triggered by noise. One of the things that help him is being able to go out on our back porch and de-escalate and be calm. I just want you, I feel like I have to speak up for him because if it becomes a place that he is severely triggered by constant noise 24/7 to a point we won't be able to bring him home. He won't be able to be a part of our community, go to church with us, family events, and I just can't stand the thought. So I felt I needed to come up here and speak on his behalf as someone who also is very close to someone who it would affect our entire family. So please keep that in consideration. That is a very real thing. The noise is extreme and it would affect us all. Thank you.
What's your address?
29 Hop Drive.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Anything you want? All right.
Sorry, Trey. I know I already spoke, but there was a couple things that I forgot to mention. The individual that I spoke to in Granbury, I asked specifically also about their electricity, like their bills and things like that. And I asked her how it affected their electricity bills, and she confirmed to me that their electricity bills have tripled since that facility started. And I'm telling you right now, the people in Vilonia, given our economy right now, not one of us can afford for our electricity bills to triple.
We need to change out the CD.
What?
We have to change out the CD. Stop. You don't have to finalize it, but we do have to change it out. Give me a second. I'll come there.
Yes.
Little locked in.
I'm Karen Wade, 41 Jansen Lane. We lived in our house for almost 20 years, and the reason that we moved here was because it was a quiet community. I too suffer from migraines, and we have to put up with the go-karts that are right behind the house. That was approved without us approving it. But I'd like you to do a little bit more research. Interstate Holdings, I'm looking at their website. They have a corporate office in Sarasota, Florida, which Steve Landers is on this website as well. And off of that shoot, they have a cannabis company. So I can tell you as a believer in Christ, those are things that I don't stand for. But I don't have a corporate office. It's on Jansky Lane. And I don't know if any city officials really care. But for those of us that live on Jansky Lane, it's a quiet, dead-end road. There's a lot of elderly people. There's young people. We can enjoy that peace and quiet when the go-karts aren't running. But I'd like for it to continue to do that. If that Bitcoin goes in behind us and we can't stand to live there, how are we going to be able to sell our house? I work in Greenbrier, and I can tell you that talking with my bosses who know the people in Worcester that are enduring what they're enduring, their electric has gone up. That sound is something that they can't deal with, their children can't deal with, and it's nonstop. And I know you guys recommend to our city council, but if the city council really cares about the people that elected them, please listen. Please listen to my neighbors, who we love, who we want to stay there and be a part of. But I don't want to be in a home that is loud and miserable to be. It's my corporate headquarters that I go to at night. Thank you.
All right, anything else? We will transition then to the rebuttal time. You all do have, it's y'all's time to finish up, and then we'll finish up this public hearing and transition over to our next one.
Thank you. About the energy thing, sir, you're 100% right. It was like transmission and simplification, but you could also talk to us about this too. Utilities in Arkansas is built on the Public Service Commission. You can't they can't overnight raise your utility rates. It takes years for them to do that.
They just did in January.
In the Public Service Commission, that's right. 33%. I made it too. Yeah, I know. But with the Texas thing, they're on the ERCOT, which is a deregulated market. So there is nobody in Texas that can say, "Hey, you have to pay this for utilities or that for utilities." That's how the difference between regulated and deregulated markets work. Per contract, let's say Ford Motor Company was coming here and make a factory, right? The utilities would bring in those transmission lines that you're talking about and do all the upgrades to the substation that you're talking about. Per our rate rider tariff, we have to pay for all that. So for all of it. So it doesn't get put on the community. You never see it on your bill or anything there. We have to pay it up front. If a breaker has to go in, we put the breaker in. If a new substation transformer has to go in, we have to purchase that and put it in. It's not something that the utilities do and then pass it on to the end customer. So if we do go belly up overnight, like you said, all that stays there. We don't get to take it back home with us. So that is the risk of doing business. You're correct. But that's a little bit more of like how our contracts work with the Public Service Commission. It's public, it's online. You can go to, it's called a large energy scale service, large general energy service rate rider. You can look it up and it'll explain everything there of how we have to do it.
Good evening, everyone. First thing I want to say is I appreciate everybody's concerns that everybody has addressed tonight. I mean, I get it. I have been to, I've been to Bono.
Could you please introduce yourself? Could you please introduce
Oh, I'm
yourself?
sorry, I'm Steve Landers, sorry, that's my first time. I've never done this before.
I just
Okay.
vocalized it, everybody else say.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. I've been to Bono and I've been on that site, and I can 1,000,000% agree that site has egregious sound issues. No questions asked. I was there a few weeks ago, and I get it. I can assure you that the site that we're proposing that has not been identified is not even remotely close to the same provisional permit that was issued to the company before. Their site that they suggested before was exactly like the site at Bono. So it was the exact same thing. What we're doing and talking about doing is completely different. At my house in Clinton, I have a metal building that is 800 feet away from my house that has a crypto mine in it. And it is not, if we walked around it, no one in this room would know what was inside of it. It's just not possible.
How many crypto?
Now, if you,
How many?
it's a smaller building, but it's 135 machines. But what I'm saying is the insulated building that we use and the fans that we use, these are the fans that make the noise. And if you go inside of a crypto mine, you're absolutely going to know where you're at. It's going to sound like a jet engine. It just is. But on the exterior, the big air moving fans that we use to help exhaust don't make that kind of noise. And it's evident in, if I had the power capacity next to my house, I would build this building right there. I wouldn't be building. And I understand, but I guess what I'm trying to convey is that there's not a sound issue with the way that we are proposing to build this. The way that
Mr. Landers, is the facility you're proposing is Vilonia the same as the one in Cabot?
it is not.
How much, what's the difference between the two?
So the containers that we have in Cabot are, they're in an envelope, but they're not the same. Those are, for lack of a better, those are shipping containers that have been constructed into holding these computers. But that's totally different. So any building that you walk around, if you walk around a metal building in Vilonia or Clinton or Little Rock or whatever, and you don't know what's inside of it, that is the sound that you would hear at the site that we're proposing. So right now, the decibel level in this room tonight has gone from 75 to 95 probably. So inside this room, it's been 75 to 95. The decibel level that we hold our standard to is 55 decibels at night and 60 during the day at the property line. Now that is a sound study that we have had a sound engineer come out and do. It's not a fly-by-night situation. It's an expensive endeavor to have them come out and do that sound study. But we do that on all of our sites. It is 60 decibels at the property line.
I've been there twice. 62 months. And I have been there and done my own readings. I did it with 2 different meters. And not once did it go under 75. Not once. So my question to you would be, when your sound engineer came out, were you running the facility at full capacity?
Yes. 100%.
And this was in the middle of the day?
100%.
Can that information be provided to us?
100%.
The report?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to see it.
No problem. A couple of the issues, the groundwater issue. I know that Bono, again, had an issue with groundwater. They were using water walls to cool. They were using containers that were and are not even the same standard that we use in Cabot. And that water wall, they had a water leak and it caused a problem, with groundwater. Our sites do not use water at all. So that's not even an issue for our locations.
I got a question. In an interview you just recently gave, you said you could have these mines located. It's not only based upon power, right? So why don't you put this somewhere where you're welcome?
We can do that. Obviously.
Don't do it.
Let's get it under control. Let's let you finish so we can go ahead and get on with the business for the evening, please.
That is the business. You just said he could move. You just said he would move. That's the
No, I mean, honestly, the fact that this site is where it's located, next to the power grid, I mean, that is, I'm just telling you the reason. I'm just giving you the reason.
Don't care.
He wants it here.
That's right.
Go back.
Please let him finish. Please let him finish. Please let him finish.
Hey, I understand. I understand the problem. I understand everybody's concern. And I'm a Arkansan just like you are, 100%. I'm telling you.
Is the company an Arkansas company, or is it a Florida company?
It is an Arkansas company.
Then how's it based in Florida
I have more than one company.
with the exact same name?
Interstate Holdings, Blockchain, Arkansas is the name of this company that runs these
And it
sites.
doesn't fall under the one in Florida?
I own all of them, so what difference does that make? I mean, it doesn't. No, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm telling you that I own both of them.
Bring it up to the vote, vote him down.
Hey, Steve, let's wrap it up here for Nate. It's been another couple minutes, and so we can come. Mr. Hener's over here getting nervous, I think.
Sure, no, I understand the concerns. If this gets voted in, if it does, that it will not be an issue in terms of sound, water, energy usage, internet. None of that will be an issue. It will exist, and no one will know it's there unless you knew it was there. The only site that gets brought up, in the state of Arkansas right now is the Bono site. So the residents of Cabot that live nearby
They moved
came down to our site and were asking when it was going to be turned on, and it had been on for 3 weeks. They didn't know. Yes.
No, they hear it.
I'm telling you, they came down to our site. Well, hey, I really appreciate everybody's time, and I understand the concerns, and I'm not oblivious to that.
You
So,
still did not state how the size of your building and where it was gonna be, and how many maximum computers and stuff were gonna be in it, and what it's made of.
so we have it's going to be a metal building. The inner workings of the building, the inside will be
40 foot wide.
how big is it?
40 foot wide, 200.
It's 40 foot wide and
220 foot long.
220 foot long. So it's a big site. But the internal workings of these computers will be inside, deep inside the site.
What's the maximum amount that it will help?
Can we,
They'll hold 4,000.
They'll
hold 4,000.
let's finish.
You said you can pull this, and you're willing to pull your permit, and you hear everybody's concerns, then why don't you just do it? Go to where it's not
Are you still here? Yeah.
I mean, honestly, as a businessman, people are telling you they don't want something, and you're saying, I will pull it.
We brought it up. I understand the concerns, and we'll do whatever we need to do. I mean, but everybody in here makes the decision. You guys make the decision. The city council makes the decision.
You can make the decision.
So, all right, are we done?
I want to say one thing before, I wasn't going to talk, but
I'm John Foster. I live at 1344 Highway 64, which is right across the street from where he's trying to put this in. Okay. The legal end of this thing is, if he gets in here and he's running 75 or 80 decimals a day, the city of Vilonia goes out and they say, "You're too loud, Steve. We're going to fine you." Okay. They fine him $1,000. It rocks on the next month. We come out. They fine him another $1,000. When he's making $100,000 a month, he can pay that $1,000. Okay. All right. If this goes on for so long, we go to court. Okay. Who's going to be able to hire the best lawyer? We don't have much money here at Vilonia. The city
already
council
said they have millions.
They have millions. Who's going to hire the best lawyer? Once he gets in here, we're in bad shape. That's the point I wanted to make.
All right, we're going to adjourn at 8:30 p.m. this public hearing, and we will transition. I don't need a break. We will transition into the site plan public hearing for the Hener subdivision. Mr. Hener, are you ready? Okay, let's go ahead and we got 8:33. We will transition into the public hearing for the Hener subdivision before we go into our planning commission meeting. And so you'll be there. And so what we normally do in this situation is you'll just describe, in case there's anybody here for the to comment on the subdivision, basically kind of give a quick overview of location. We know because we have the documents, right? And have you sent out all the public? Did you send out all the letters?
I sent out letters for
That's right. Yes. So there may be somebody. I don't know if there's anybody in here to talk about that. You're going to give a quick overview of the subdivision you're proposing, number of lots, location. That's it.
I'm Robert Hener, Hener Homes, and I'm going to be building a very small subdivision over on the corner of Weaver and Say. And it's going to be 8 homes, small homes. They're going to be about 1,500, 1,600 square feet. It's going to be for like first time home builders, no fires, and it's not going to put any streets in. Extend the water line and put the sewer across the street to the lots. It's pretty simple. It's not going to be any construction or anything like that. And I think they're going to do sidewalks and curb and gutter and so there'll be some improvements.
Okay. Is there any comments from anybody on the subdivision this evening? Yes, sir. What's going on? You can state your name if you don't mind an address. And
Jason Fancy, 26 Weaver Street.
You bet.
You're not doing a big quarter mine there. I do have a couple of concerns, mostly during building phase. So I think you and I have spoken on the phone before. So I don't have any big questions about the overall plan. I mean,
Well, Anthony, that's right. Yeah, I built his house.
right. I guess one was a question of what are the size and kind of character of the home? Is it going to be contributing to the neighborhood in kind of similar format, or is it going to be changing the makeup of the neighborhood at all? And second, I do have a couple questions about the early stages of development. We had a number of trees on the property. We had approximately 10 cedars that were taken accidentally, I believe, off our property, which we do still need to make sure we have some kind of restitution on to make sure that we resolve that. Arkansas is a triple damage state, so there's quite a bit of compensation required for that. So I want to make sure that we can come to some good terms on that outside of this. It's probably not planning committee stuff, but my other question is the drainage, especially currently along Weaver, is creating quite a swamp. Just with line clearing, I understand it's temporary, but I, as a resident, would ask that we can get that addressed sooner rather than later because it's a massive these properties. Again, I know it's just kind of a casualty of development. I know hard feelings on it, just asking that we can address that sooner rather than later. It's turning into a mess.
Hey, Jason, what was your address, if you don't mind?
26 Weaver Street.
26 Weaver Street. Okay.
That's all I have for you now.
All right, thanks, sir. Any other public comment on the Pepper subdivision? All right, we will close that portion of the public hearing. I've got 8:37 p.m. And we will transition into our regular scheduled planning commission meeting for Thursday, April 24th. Everybody good? William?
Yeah, okay.
All right. All right. All right. We'll call the meeting to order here at 8:37. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from March. So everybody should receive the minutes in their packet. A quick review, meeting's called to order at 7:01. We approved minutes from February. The new business was the replat of the Hill Farm subdivision, lots 23 through 33, where we allowed approved a variance for some of those lots regarding the floodway. And the motion's passed. We adjourned at 7:14 p.m. That replat was for lots 23 through 33. All right. Any comments at this time? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I have a comment.
I have a motion from Todd. Sir,
This is on our minutes.
this is on our minutes.
We're just approving our minutes. You asked for approval of the minutes, did you not? Of last month's minutes.
Last month's meeting.
Correct. I would just like to find out something about last month's meeting.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, sir.
I can't.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead and ask your question. What you got?
My question is when Hill Farms went in, why is there only one access to that development? Why is there not two accesses where the fire department, if an emergency is caused, with my understanding, is that's a fire hazard or a danger, that you only have one access into that development? And that's my question to you, is why was there only one access approved for that development?
So, let us get through the planning commission meeting tonight and we'll visit with you. How about that? What was your name?
Sorry, my name is Rick Hardy.
Rick. All right, gotcha. All right, we have a motion on the floor from Todd for the approval of the minutes and a second from Glenn. All right. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of approving minutes from March as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. All right, there is no old business, so we will transition into our new business, the Interstate Holdings blockchain conditional use. Mr. Landers, Mr. Team's still here. All right, anybody want? We are transitioning into that portion of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, before we start, I would like to make it known.
Make sure your mic's on. Yeah, there you go.
All right, before we start, I'd like to make it known that I'm an employee of Entergy, and just to ensure that there's no conflict of interest, I'd like to recuse myself from any discussion or potential voting on this matter.
Yes, sir. All right. That's no. All right. I don't mind asking questions, so I'm about to start. Anybody else, unless somebody else wants to. All right, so I'm going to just, for clarification's sake, you said no internet to these sites. Is that accurate?
They don't use.
And if you don't mind coming to the couple, it doesn't matter if it's you or me or whoever else. We appreciate y'all being here. Because we're going to transition to this, and y'all may want to leave out whatever else. Thank y'all for being here.
So they don't use much internet.
But you will have internet.
We will have internet, yes.
Okay. And water?
No water.
No water at all. No water hookups.
No water hookups.
Yeah,
Well, bathroom.
You will have that.
Obviously, because it's an industrial build, we have to follow.
So you're going to have a 3/4 inch line,
Yeah, the water won't be used to cool the machines in any way.
Okay, and so you're going to have this, and I do wish, this may be a little bit of a critique from a presentation standpoint, but I agree with Ms. Hartley there, as far as the description of the overall building during the public presentation standpoint. I wish you'd heard that, because I'm about to ask the same question.
Right.
So you have a large building, this is pre-engineered metal building, it's insulated?
Be an insulated metal building.
So we have heat rejection because we got a bunch of computers in there. So there's got to be some kind of ventilation.
So the ventilation would go through the ceiling.
So it exhausts out the roof.
Yes.
So raining. So there's a roof on the building.
Yes. Yeah, it's a fully enclosed building.
And so it's just a vented roof.
Yes.
Okay. And so the heat rises up out of the building, right? And so are there any makeup air machines, air conditioners that are on the outside of the building?
Upblast units. So like a upblast fan, like you would see on top of a restaurant.
Okay.
Same thing. Those
Industrial exhaust
upblast units. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And you should have. Well, we've given it to the city at least the site plan and stuff for it.
Right, but I'm more kind of curious on the particulars of the building.
Correct. Yeah, and that's some of that.
So, I feel like obviously we all know the site was not good. We were dealing with an issue around here about that same time. Right, got over there. Knew it wasn't good. So when I drove to Cabot, I go at night. I don't want to go when everybody knows I'm going, right? Just because you want to drive up and kind of see what's going on. And most of the time, I've always heard that y'all ramp the machines up at night because you can use more electricity. Is that accurate? It's not accurate. Okay. So if you're proposing a building here, why are we not seeing buildings like in Cabot? Is that just an economic business thing? Because
Actually, no. I mean, there's almost no difference between the cost per megawatt of the containers that we have at Cabot and a metal building that's insulated. It's very negligible in terms of that. It's deployment time, because as you mine Bitcoin, a day that you don't mine is a day that's gone forever. You never get it back. So it comes down in a lot of ways to deployment. And if we did shut the site down and remove it, if we had containers, we would just pick them up and go, right? I mean, that is what people would do. So there's a deployment and an availability to move it if you need to.
Okay. So, in part of the state legislature, when they passed their act last year, Act 973 or whatever that is, does that sound right?
174.
Whatever it is. Okay. So there was language in that act that these can only go in industrial zonings of municipalities, but is that accurate, or is that just part of the? I read that in part of one of the.
Yeah.
So what it says is that you can go into industrial zone without a special use permit. For instance, my site in Walnut Ridge, we went into industrial zone at the airport right beside Williams Baptist College.
Okay.
Of course, this was back before any of this. Again, like I said, I've been doing it since 2019.
Right.
So it says, okay, you have the industrial zone, you can go into that zone area, just like any other business can. And then, or if you're not in the industrial zone, it then stipulates what type of, can you use passively cooled containers, i.e. those ant boxes and
So, and I'm not sure.
And it cuts that down.
So, but you could go into other zones besides industrial zone in a
If you got a special
municipality.
use permit for it,
If you
yes,
get a
sir.
special, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, is there any other state? Is there any other legislation? I don't believe there was anything this time through the state legislature. Are y'all foreseeing any other legislation come through the state legislature?
Not
at the moment.
Okay.
I mean, that's 2 years away.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
So also one other thing, when you're talking about the energy, like do we ramp it up at night or whatever? No, so our base load factor, our load factor, we try to be at 1. So we're usually at like 99.1. So which means 99.1% of the time we're always using all the power that we can use. So we try to keep our load factor around 1, which that's impossible because that would be a perfect world. But that's like considered 1 would be 100% usage. Per our energy tariff that we talked about, that I was telling you about with the tariff, with the curtailment,
Right.
we have to shut down 144 hours a year to feed that power to the grid as needed. Last year, Energy called and asked us to do it for 27 hours total. So we never had that much strain to even meet a quarter of what we are required under our contracts.
I'm going to finish up my question and just kind of state my opinion is that I don't have any doubts that y'all can probably make this thing quiet. My thing is that I can't, there's no comparison to where, go show me what you're doing. We don't have that. What we have is development, and I can't support anything that would, I haven't seen. We just approved a Taco Bell here a couple months ago. I can go find a Taco Bell and drive through. I can't go to a building that's got Quick-Wheel machines into it and see that, right? And I can't support it right now. My preference is they're recommended at 9. But I'm open to what other.
I mean, Russellville is an example of what we're talking about.
So when we get a submittal, we get information in, right? And we did not have any information on Russellville. I mean, kind of just from newspapers and everything else, right? So that was my go by.
So Russellville's been operating, I built it, my partner and I own a bunch of mine.
Sure.
That's been operating in the industrial park there across the street from Tyson, 300 feet away from houses.
Right.
The exact same building plans as that, and y'all should have them, but if not, we have them. That we chose to. But anyway, I know it's past that. But that place has been operating for going on September will be 3 years. And we've never had a complaint there. You know, when we were in last April, when we were with legislation, the state asked for us all to give a register of where all the 19 mines are in the state. And I asked them the question, I said, so we've been operating in the state for several years now. The Bono problem came up, and that problem put it all on the rest of us.
Guilty by association.
Guilty by association, that's right. So I said, there's a reason why you're asking for a register of where these mines are. Because the other 18 of us that have been operating, like I said, since 2019, 2020, have never caused a problem. Never happened in any circumstances. You don't know where they're at. Our legislators didn't know where they're at because we're not causing problems. And some of them are 2 times the size of the one that's proposed here.
Bill, I'll just state, when we went through the hearing 2 years ago, granted it wasn't in a building, but we heard a lot of the same things. All this thing's not very noisy or anything of that nature right now. Take away the whole ownership side of things and all that stuff. That's just difficult. All right. But I'm just taking personal opinion. I'm just one guy.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not in favor of it at this point. Because I haven't seen it all. I don't have anything to go by.
I've got a question about the blast fans you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Is there just one of those?
No, sir. It's
how many are we talking about?
14 it would take 14.
Okay, so that's an additional noise then?
Well,
aside
so
from the computer?
Right. So up blast fans are designed to muffle sound, right? The sound that y'all all hear out there that's so detrimental, obviously, and I agree. I've been working in these mines every day for 5 years now too. I still can hear. I don't have congestive heart failure. I haven't had a stroke. I take no medicine. Those fans have that high frequency, that loud pitch hum, right? Or squeal. Squeal, not hum, sorry. That squeal. Fans, just like the industrial fans that you have, like in any other factory warehouse type thing, is designed to muffle anything that comes out of it. So the exhaust fans, just like our industrial ones that have it, granted they're inside a shipping container there, which poses a little different when we talk about the reverberation of sound and stuff like that. The more space you have, obviously, the more muffling that can be done, the more sound dampering that can be done with louvers.
So is your acoustical test done with all those fans running on the roof?
100%. Yep. So per the state law,
right,
we have to have pre-construction studies.
Sure.
Where a sound engineer comes out, he takes the plans that we give him, how we're going to do it, he puts it into his modeling. I'm not a sound engineer, by no means. He puts it into his modeling, and he gives us those recommendations of saying, hey, you're going to have these sound issues at here, and here at different points around. They've already come out, and they've already done that. And what that is, then from there, that's how we build, like back to your point of, well, where is it going to be and all that. Well, once we get all that information, that's when we have to build the sound walls to adhere to it or whatever to meet those decibel limits. And then we do a post-construction study. So the post-construction study is they come out, we have to be running at 100%, they do their sound study, and then if there was a problem that model didn't get beforehand, then we would modify it to meet that. Because again, we're not trying to make anybody mad, by no means.
So what level of noise is going to come off the other blast fans?
Right, so they're about 60 decibels, yes, sir. So per the noise ordinance, it's 60 at night.
No,
Is that a combination or just per fan?
You said earlier.
It's 50, I'm sorry, 55 at night and 60 during the day.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if noise actually, like the more you have, the more, changes the decibels.
But long story short,
Yeah.
your acoustical studies that you do, is that governed by the state legislature's
It is.
law?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
so y'all have to do
Through the
those.
oil and gas.
Okay, and then, so, we have if you go outside into the county, right, the zoning and things of that change, right? And so, are you governed by, obviously there's no industrial zone in the county for the most part, so is it pretty much first come, first served? If you're out in the county, you find a substation that.
Well,
We would still adhere to the rules that have already been set in place. Just because there's no rules in terms of zoning doesn't mean that we would go out and just have a free-for-all and just make it as noisy as possible. It is our internal requirement that we don't cause a noise issue based on, the rules that have been set forth by the legislators.
Sure. And so we all know you can get outside of the city limits and outside of the industrial zone because the go-kart track is outside of the city limits in the industrial zone, right? And so, is that proximity like where the go-kart track is in relation to the substation? Is that close enough to where you would put a crypto mine? Or how's that?
It's possible.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I have a few.
You bet, Patrick. Go ahead.
So, usually crypto mining rigs have a certain lifespan. They'll burn themselves out. You said you're going to be running out 4,000, possibly up to 4,000 in there. What's the plan for disposal for those?
Yep, so most of them run, it's a profitability issue, right? Because we have the network difficulty that adjusts every 2 weeks, and that determines how much Bitcoin we mine, right? So if that miner that we bought today became unprofitable, then obviously we would do something with it. So a lot of that is they get sent off to recycling because they do have the ASIC chips, but they can be repurposed. So, but there's still a lot of minerals in that can be redone. However, generally it's based on your power rate, right? So, like if it's 4.5 cents here in Arkansas, 5 cents for us a kilowatt hour, then I would preferably send them somewhere where it has a cheaper rate, maybe. Unfortunately, in America, that is not the case. I could send it to Ethiopia, literally Ethiopia, where they have about 2 cents power. But the problem is, I don't want the Ethiopian government to walk in and seize my stuff. I'm American, right? Like, I have that freedom here. I want to keep it. So there's a geopolitical portion of that, too, that you have to worry about. So, answer your question, as long as it remained profitable, it could be 5, 6, 7, 10 years. I'm running machines, he's running machines that were made in 2017 that are still profitable. Now, back to the hardware technician side jobs of it, the lifespan. Yeah, a board may go out because it's a solder joint that goes out generally, not the chips. Or maybe a power supply or a control board. That's what the technician guys do on site. They're constantly resoldering boards or changing out control boards, power supplies, etc. So, hope that answers your question. A little bit, yeah. Like the lifespan is hard to tell because it's just as long as it's profitability.
That's what it comes down to. If Bitcoin increases in value, which that's the projection for everybody that's in that market space, then quite literally the same machines that we're running at the halving in 3-ish years, they may still be profitable, and if they are, they would continue to run.
Okay. Have there been any air quality studies that these are putting out, burning that much plastic, heating up that much plastic at least, heating up that much soldering, which contains lead? Is there studies on how much we're kind of pumping into the environment since they're going into?
So, again, up until 2021, summer of 2021, America had about 4% mining. So, for the world, we were very, very small. China kicked out the miners, and they went to 0%. They made about 40% of the world's miners then. They have returned to about 30%, but it is other miners that have come back in as they've opened it up for other people. So as far as like case studies, long-term case studies here in America, no, there is not. But the only byproduct, there's no carbon byproduct or anything of these miners. It's just heat exhaust. No different than your laptop. You stick your hand on the bottom of it, down there where those holes are, and you have heat coming off of it. It's the same thing. We just use a lot more energy than that laptop. Therefore, we have higher cooling capacity and higher cooling needs from it. So the byproduct is the same, just waste heat. Heat byproduct, yeah.
Can I just quickly say, if you're going to measure the decibel levels of a new site with new fans, obviously the sound is going to be a lot lower than if they've been running for months and months and months.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody want to step out there and make a recommendation, a motion or recommendation? Mr. Coker, what do you think?
We'll make a motion that at this time we deny this conditional use from permit.
We have a motion from Mr. Coker to make a recommendation to the city council to deny the conditional use. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Charles, second from Bob. Okay, any final discussion? With that, all those in favor of approving motion to recommend to deny to the city council the conditional use for the Bitcoin mining facility, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? There are none. Carries. That would be 6-0. All right. We will transition into the Hener addition. All right. Mr. Hener, we got a couple questions. Mr. Landers, Ben, thank y'all again for the presentation.
Thank y'all for having us.
But no, you got me there trying to find it. Yeah, because they got us recording and all that other stuff. All right. Yeah. If anybody else wants to leave, feel free. I know if somebody else.
Go ahead and park.
Mr. Hener, appreciate your patience this evening. Take the time. All right, so we received an email from, I don't know if most of y'all saw that, we received an email from Trey Foster earlier today with a recommendation, and then we received a subsequent email after that. And did everybody see that subsequent email from Trey? You did? Okay. So there's a couple things that, and I don't know, I talked to Trey this afternoon, and he was trying to get a hold of Aaron, civil engineer. Okay, so the lots 1 through 6, you have 8 total lots, right? And lots 1 through 6, there's a requirement within the development code, and I'll kind of give you, if you go into a section in the development regulation 6.10.3, okay, and what they want to show is that there's a 3-to-1 ratio. So the lots can only be 3 times as deep as they are wide. So your width is 65, right? And so multiply that out 130, where are we at? Yeah, so 195.
Yeah, I talked to Aaron this afternoon, what he's gonna do is, I think he asked for a waiver on it, but I don't know if it's gonna be done or not. But what he said what he could do is he could move the lot lines up.
So, but then
He lots of the land in the back there like that, he was gonna do something different like that, give them like an access to.
So have y'all looked at like the subdivision that's across the street? That, you know, where they made the line and they have, I'm gonna go, so it's across the street to the west. What is that across? Say street, I believe, to the west.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, where I think it kind of goes over there and on kind of dead ends or whatever else. Yeah, we get to it, but they got houses on both sides, but I think obviously it adheres to the 3-to-1. Kind of, would you consider doing something like that, you think, and talking with Aaron?
We went over that, we were gonna try to put a cul-de-sac in it like that, but there were no more lots of it, to be able to get out of it like that, the money wasn't gonna be feasible. That's what he told me just to keep it as we were doing the L, 2 on Weaver and 6 on that. That was his recommendation. We went over 3 different proposals looking at it, and he said, "There's no more lots of it to get out of." Basically, got the pond and the right that land was on Weaver Street. It wasn't really wide enough to be able to do anything. I wasn't to be able to get any more, really need more lots out of it. It was going to cost. It's going to be just way out there.
Yeah. So.
Is all that in the floodplain there? Is that pond staying, is all that in the floodplain back in the very back?
I don't know if it's in the floodplain. I didn't see anyone where we got.
It's just
There's a pond back there in the back corner. Are y'all leaving the pond, right? You're calling that a drainage?
Drainage and stuff, because the people next door had said something about how it comes off their property and stuff like that. We just kind of let the pond, there. I didn't really know, but that's what I talked to Eric about it. He said it'd be better for drainage.
My knee-jerk reaction or first opinion is, when I think of a variance, right, I think of, okay, 65 times 3, 195, well, I might be 205, right? I'm not 465, right? And so I think of a variance from kind of in those scenarios, so to speak. This is a little, I don't want to use the word, but, overthrown, kind of egregious, given how deep it is. So, I would say, my opinion, this is an opinion, right, is, do we recommend that it goes back to Aaron, or it goes back to the civil engineer? I said Aaron Robinson, the bond engineer, to go back to the civil engineer to try to rework this out a little bit, try to see if you can get the number of lots that you need to make economic sense out of it and everything else.
He did all the drawing, and he already did all the type of people and all the stuff, surveying, all that kind of stuff. He said he just couldn't get the lots out of it. So that's what he was trying to tell me. And he said if we just leave it like we've got it, and he said if the lots were too deep, he said we could bring it. He said he could survey it and bring it up, and then at the closing, and then we could sell the house. We could leave those people the rest of that land for nothing.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see a drawing on that, so I'd like to see a drawing on that, so it's not unusual, like to.
It'll be the same as what you've got now, but it's just gonna be, instead of the lots being whatever they are, 200 or whatever like that, it's gonna be, what is it, gotta come up, 150, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think you can go with that, because
It comes up to 100.
Because I think you're at 468, almost 470 feet, so you're gonna have to come up almost 270 feet. That's a football field. That's that's what I was wondering.
That land doesn't look like it's that big there like that. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's why I was wondering if there wasn't another reconfiguration that
we did discuss that this afternoon. And he said that he was gonna get the trade.
So you're from the back of the house, like I say, over a football field.
So, yeah, we try to be flexible on, we try to, but,
I built that house right there on Weaver Street, and there's 3 acres there. And they said, I mean, I don't see why it matters how big the lot is. I mean, if you want to do this size like that, we can break them up like that, and then just, like I said, I was going to just deed the rest of that land to the people, and they just get it free. They just have to take care of it.
That was a Pierce edition when it was built, and that was supposed to be sold by Meeks and Bounds anyway. That 3 acres probably was, that whole Pierce edition was sold way before Planning Commission and all that. But that was all sold by Meeks and Bounds if I was,
I don't know. I built that house in 2017 or 18.
And so, from our standpoint, we have we have a couple documents, obviously, that we have to adhere to, that we're charged to adhere to. One of those is the control of development document. The other one is the zoning document, right? And so that control of development document goes into these plats and subdivisions and things of that nature. So, there's certain things in there where, granted, it talks about sidewalks, it talks about street lighting, things of that nature, right? And so, that's kind of what we're charged to do when we review a site plan like this. And so, I think maybe go back to go back to the drawing board just a little bit, and then come back, next month with a list of variances that you'd like to apply for. If you really think you can't reconfigure these, but I'd be surprised if you can't do something a little bit different. Now, Jason, as far as that goes, that's nothing we control here as far as the Planning Commission. I do think that that area, we have had a couple complaints, or I won't say complaints, comments in the past with subdivisions in that area. Mr. Cope, you made as far as the drainage is concerned. And I don't know, doing a drainage study, if they've looked at that and how all that.
I think they had something on the plans. I don't know if they did. I don't think if Aaron presented that to y'all.
I don't see that as far as.
There was very little, him just got it like yesterday. We didn't really have time.
The first plat that we received actually said final plat on it, and we had some questions. We knew it wasn't final. Right. So the one we received yesterday, it said preliminary.
I know that Aaron and Trey, and he said, "Do you want me to call you back?" And Aaron just told me he wasn't going to be here. I know Trey was, but they had been talking on the phone this afternoon, and they worked some stuff out. So I'm sure they do. I'm sure they got something going on.
When I was talking to Trey earlier, he was talking. I guess there was some questions as far as culverts versus open ditch and drainage and things of that nature. And I think that's some of the conversations he was having with Aaron at Vilonia. So I don't know that there's really any business to take. If you want to take it back and work on it some more with Aaron and them, and then we'll address it.
I know they addressed it this afternoon, and I know that Aaron and Trey were talking. I don't know. I didn't hear any of the conversation. Sure. I was in Little Rock, and he called me and said, "You want me to call you back?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be meeting."
So in this,
and Aaron told me that he would not be able to hear.
Right. In this situation, we would generally, you would call up here at the city, talk to Kelly here in a day or two, and she would have a list of concerns that we have discussed here tonight within our preliminary minutes that you can take and say, Aaron, here's mine.
I'll do that.
Here's the concerns that they had from the Planning Commission standpoint, and then we'll.
Well, I know the depth of lots were because he told me about that.
Sure.
That's what I told him that we could do, and I think he was going to talk to Trey about it. That's what I heard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Todd, does that sound agreeable to you as far as we'll have that too in a day or two as far as that goes? What other questions do we have? Patrick, did you say you had a couple things?
Yes, sir. They're mostly about the plat itself, the subdivision plat that we presented. If you do keep that lot one in the same configuration, on the east side, it gets down to 58 feet in total width. It needs to be a minimum of 65. You can see a variance on that. That's probably a variance we could look at.
Okay.
On something like that. I mean, I'm sure the purpose is it's sitting in the middle of a pond, so everyone cares about corners.
Right.
But just something to think about that. All the easements on this are just labeled easement instead of the drainage easement. It'd just be nice to have a definition on it. I'm sure they mean like utility or utility and drainage easement.
Right.
I'd just like to see that on the plan.
Yeah.
None of the right of ways on here say whether they're dedicated or not. Are you gonna be dedicating that to the
Yes, I
city?
would.
Okay.
I planned on it. But I really need to talk with Energy too a little bit about how we're gonna do the power poles and, you know, like for the electricity like that, but, yeah.
And just one other thing here. It says this property is zoned R1. It would be medium density residential areas. I don't think R1 is belonging as far as I'm aware.
Say that one more time now.
I don't believe Vilonia has an R1 zone.
Yeah, so is that what's on the plan? Yes, he needs to revise that.
Yes, sir. It'd be a medium density.
This is the sandbox he plays in every day. We're glad he's on our planning commission.
And I did check the floodplain for this property as well. You were not on the floodplain. That's the place as far as Green is concerned. That's all I got for you.
Okay. Appreciate you, sir. We'll be coming to you here. And we'll have the preliminary minutes available here in a few days.
I'm pretty sure, I'm not really certain of that, but I'm thinking Aaron and Trey probably got it.
Well, they have it.
Everybody's all done and stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
I know those issues that you're talking about were mentioned to me tonight. That's what I'm ready for.
Sure. You bet. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, let's be sure we got all the comments into the minutes with Todd as far as that goes. All right. Anything else?
Do we want to address this gentleman before the meeting's over or after?
Let's listen after the meeting's over. That way we can let everybody else go and what they want to. Okay? All right, any other comments, announcements? Mayor, we good? Okay. We're going to adjourn at 9:16 p.m. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.